Broads Media.
Howie Roseman's been running around trying to make some trades. He landed one, moved back, not surprised. I love it. Picked up the phone, said, "Yo, Loomis, what's going on down there in New Orleans?" And bang, I think it's hilarious that prior to this offseason, you would ask a million Eagles fans how they felt about Howie Roseman. And you would get majority of the people saying he sucks, he's stupid, and he has no idea what he's doing. And then I would ask, who's better? And the reaction would be Chris Ballard. The reaction would be Loomis, Mickey Loomis in New Orleans. And I'm not telling you that they are bad general managers. I'm telling you that Howie Roseman is in the mix with all the other ones that you are going to mention. He fleeced Chris Ballard and literally pantsed him in front of the whole entire NFL world with that Carson Wentz trade. And here we have great value by moving some picks back. And basically, the Saints get the 16th and the 19th overall pick and a 6th rounder, while the Eagles get the 18th, which is one in front of the Saints' 19th. That's how numbers work. They get a 2023 first, a 2024 second, and a 2022 third and 7th. You can look at it this way. They traded the 16th overall pick for a first, second, and a third. I mean, that is ridiculous. That is fantastic value. And I get it. Now you have to apply what you do to the draft. And you actually have to pick the right players. And you actually have to accomplish your goal by landing unbelievable talent that can help out your franchise. They have made mistakes in the past for sure. But I'm just telling you that Howie Roseman still is good at his job and still knows how to operate and do things at a high level. A couple of the GMs that are viewed very highly in this league, it seems, at least in this department, prior to we see the outcome, everyone loves what Howie Roseman got in return. And we know the Eagles won the Chris Ballard and the Colts trade. So just to put it in perspective, all of these other GMs, because they are damn good GMs, they sometimes have some uncomfortable moments, and they sometimes have some disappointing moments as well. Just keep that in the back of your mind. But I love it, and you look at Howie Roseman and what he did last year at the draft. You're at 6, you move back to 12, you still apply some great players to your roster in that draft. You get your Landon Dickerson, you get your Devontae Smith. Well, can you back that up with another offseason of some really good players? You got your Dallas Goedert. You got your Miles Sanders. Can we find ways to improve the roster with those type of players? And realistically, the question that's asked now is, what does this mean for Jalen Hurts? And I think once they didn't land Russell Wilson, once they didn't land a quarterback that could change their franchise, they realized we're going to run it back with Jalen. There's no QBs in this draft that we're absolutely obsessed with, and it seems to be somewhat of the common theme around the NFL world. We'll push back into next year, give Jalen Hurts another chance to improve and see if he does add to his repertoire and see what him and Nick Sirianni can dial up. And I know the narrative around last year was they couldn't beat any good teams. All they did was beat the poor teams with bad quarterback play. Sure, there were some Mike Glennons in there, Daniel Jones. They played Trevor Siemian when they played the Saints. It's not as if they wowed you to death with fantastic victories against teams that were extremely talented at the quarterback position, where there was fear in Jonathan Gannon's eyes because he obviously runs a different defense when he is afraid to get beat over the top compared to where he thinks he gets an advantage off because the quarterback stinks. So it gives him an opportunity to apply different looks, and he's not worried about getting beat over the top. That changes everything with the defensive identity of Gannon, and we saw that last season. But I also feel that with the new head coach last year, with an entirely young coaching staff as well, not knowing much about Jalen Hurts once he got thrown in there for the first starting weeks of the season, they just went in with a game plan that didn't suit the team best. Now, they scrapped it, and they went in a new direction once they realized that let's utilize his playmaking ability with his legs more, and let's see what we can do and target a different style of offense. And then they started to play a better brand, which maybe they could have won some of those games earlier on if they knew what was best with their team, and they didn't at that point. And that's why teams that play hot football at the end of the year, it doesn't always relate to how they started. I am not telling you, let's be clear, I am not telling you that the Philadelphia Eagles by any means are the New England Patriots, but it happened all the time. Oh, they're 1-3 in their first month. What happens when it's cold and it's November and it's December and it's January and it's February? They flip the switch and they figure it out and bang, there they go. It's not crazy, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, they sucked all year. They're not the same team. Well, look where they ended up going to. They make a deep run. They turn around. They figure it out. What happens in September, what happens in October isn't necessarily going to tell you and define who you are by the end of the year. The UNC Tar Heels. Think about the UNC Tar Heels that just lost in the national championship game last night to Kansas. What a wild ride emotionally. I had Kansas on the money line parlayed with a little Boston Bruins who won in overtime. So that was a nice cash out for the kid. But ultimately, it's progress made. Now that you have an identity and substance on Jalen Hurts, you apply that knowledge to the team. Now you can start off differently. Instead of having the awful start and putting yourself in such a big hole, maybe you're just around average in the beginning of the season, and then that changes the trajectory as you grow as a unit. Just throwing it out there. Look, in terms of what their ceiling could be with their limited moves so far, and I'm not going to downplay a Hassan Reddick, okay, because that's a big move. And I like grabbing White from the Chargers with the linebacker. Now there's someone who can actually do some damage in that department. No more Nate Gary, no more Alex Singleton, no more of those style of players. You got someone that you can rely on legitimately in that position. I still feel we're in that same type of category. Look, last year I saw them as a 6-win team before the season began. They won 9 football games, and they made the playoffs, which was awesome. I feel, though, with Jalen Hurts, while I'm anticipating him to grow and get better and be better going to the left, and Todd Bowles dared him. We saw that. In the playoff game, they said, Jalen Hurts, what can you do if I give you this to work with? And he fell flat on his face. I feel he will learn from that. He's a competitor. He's got that nature in him, which he's going to take strides to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And who knows, maybe he doesn't have the skill level at the end of the day to get it done. But you know he's going to give you everything he can. And if he falls on his face, it's not for a lack of effort and lack for a trying. We'll find out. But even with my feelings that he will be better than last year, even though it won't be enough, I'm heading into the season almost thinking they're going to be in that same tier-ish. Now, this is why I think it can be more acceptable than a different circumstance. And what I mean by that is there's a fear that Howie Roseman, and this cracks me up, but there's a fear that Howie Roseman is brainwashing Jeffrey Lurie, kicking the can down the road every single time he gets a chance with some draft picks, just so he can keep a job. And he's lying to Jeffrey Lurie so he doesn't get fired, and there's this whole methodical plan involved. I don't think that's the case. Okay, look, we knew they had to retool and regroup after winning the Super Bowl. Would we have liked the Super Bowl run to go more than 1 year? Did we think we had a dynasty in the making? Absolutely. Now, to be fair, how many of those actually go down? I think we might be a little brainwashed knowing that the New England Patriots did it for one of the longest runs ever in the history of sports and think that that's real. Now, the Saints are into this mode right now, which is just bonkers, and who the hell knows how they're doing it, but it seems like they just pick up everyone and their mother, pay them some cash, and now here they are ready to rock. So maybe the Rams end up doing it. Who knows? And look, there are legitimate, like we saw the Eagles. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but every year, Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid, NFC Championship games, there's something to that. The Kansas City Chiefs, what they're doing now, even though losing Tyreek Hill is going to be massive for what they want to operate offensively. And maybe that is the start of the, I'm not going to say fall down, because when you have Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, you're always in the conversation. But maybe they drop a bit of a fear level. Maybe they drop a little bit of a, when you see them, do you have that same fear if Tyreek Hill is not out there running and exploding and they replace some guys and now Juju Smith-Schuster is a weapon for them? Like that's a big difference and a big loss overall. Should it have been more and longer? Absolutely. I'm not downplaying that. But I'm also not acting as if it's normal to just have an insane amount of runs to a Super Bowl championship every single year. Like, that seems to be more of an outlier than it is a norm, because it's that difficult. And, 1-2 years of a player in the NFL can make the difference. Fletcher Cox at 28, Fletcher Cox at 31. That's a big difference in terms of what you get maximize-wise out of these players. But anyway, I digress. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, they have a plan. Howie Roseman's not just pushing this back to say, I just don't want to get fired. The guy wants to win. Realistically, the guy wants to say, fuck you to all the people that rip him apart every single day. I know he listens. I know he hears things. And there is a part of the Eagles that release information to try and make the noise a little bit lower or softer when there is a lot of pitchforks and stakes being screamed towards Howie Roseman's direction. He hears it. And there's nothing more he wants to do than shove it right up to everyone who despises him and says that he can't do it, even though he already won a Super Bowl and he already has the Super Bowl championship ring and he already has the hardware to go with it. He still hears it and he knows and he has the plan to put this all together. It just unfortunately doesn't happen overnight. There is a blueprint that they have. It comes down to executing the blueprint properly, but it's not just out of control. Let's just keep pushing picks back. Let's not study what they're like. Let's not study the quarterbacks. Let's not look at next year's draft. Let's not do this. Let's not do that. No, they're doing everything. They're doing their research. They're doing their homework. There's a reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are in the same level of Steelers, Ravens, Packers. You look at all the numbers. You look at their playoff appearances, this and that. They're in that range. They're looked at as a good organization. Cracks me up. How come nobody ever wants to come to the Eagles except for if they live there and their hometown was the Eagles? That's why people want to come back. That's the only reason, because they hate Howie. Oh, my God. Come on. That's so lazy. That's such a lazy narrative. As if there's not 30-plus other teams out there that he can go to. Money talks, and if it fits within your system, fine. And there's other situations, like if the Eagles offer you and the Ravens offer you right now. Yes, there's other teams that are a little bit higher and maybe a little bit higher on the list at the moment than the Eagles. There's a lot of worse ones, too. A ton of worse ones, too. Howie works in weird, mysterious ways. Outside of the draft, those mysterious ways, though, seem to pan out and be okay. Joe chimes in the chat and says, I think Howie just doesn't like the draft class. For the quarterback, yeah, I feel that you are correct. Look, if they stayed and they didn't make any pushback, didn't make any trades back with the New Orleans Saints, I would be all right with that. If you said Howie Roseman this year analyzed his board, looked at his draft picks, and thought, we need 3 players that can help out this team. We'll go grab some defensive playmakers. We'll add that to White and Hassan, which we added to our roster in the offseason. We still need some help in other areas. We could look at the offensive side of the ball as well, because we know that they like that offensive mindset. There's a lot of different angles you could go. Draft 3 young players in the first round, and let's just add that to this young core. No doubt about it. Now, there's financial things that happen, too. Now that you have 2 in this first round, 2 in the next first round, when you think about when it's time to pay these young cats, it's a little bit more dispersed instead of all at the same time, which matters as well, even though I would have faith and trust in Howie Roseman to make that happen anyway. And I also find this hilarious. I'll never forget it. I will never forget the moment. I was listening up to some New York sports radio at the time, the Michael Kay Show. I was driving, I was at a market, we were flipping on the radio, whatever. It ended up coming on. And they were talking about Gettleman at the time. And they referenced, how come they can't run the ship like Howie Roseman does down in Philadelphia, where he's pushing money back, he's finding salary cap loopholes, they're signing players all the time. It seems like they don't have cap space, but then they do. They know how to do it. And it's so funny when you listen to other people speak about the Eagles, it's an insanely different tone on how things are ran. Now, with the Eagles right now, you can definitely make the argument that they are struggling in the drafting department. And that's going to be a big part of this, right? If they come flat on their face afterwards and they pick Jay Joel and Jalen Reagor and some crap and some slop, I'll be sitting right here and ripping them apart, because that needs to change. You would have to change things. Look, I think that you would have an awesome person in charge that can make trades like they did yesterday with the Saints, that can make trades just like they did with the Miami Dolphins to move back from 6 to 12 and grab a first, to sign a Jay Ajayi, to sign a Hassan Reddick, to sign some of these players, to work with the cap nonstop. But if it's another disaster and another putrid effort in the draft, I think they have to reassess.